July 24th. I shall not tell the year. She is a Democratic member of the Michigan House of Representatives. She represents the 12th District Court, which is located in southwest Detroit and stretches from an area just south of downtown to the city's southern border and west to the city of Dearborn. Upon her swearing in on January 1st, 2009, Tlaib became the first Muslim American woman to serve in the Michigan legislature and only the second Muslim woman in history to be elected to any state legislature in America. A little bit about her biography. She is the eldest of 14 children. She was born on July 24th to working-class Palestinian immigrants from Detroit, Michigan. Her mother was born in Beit al-Ruqa near the West Bank city of Ramallah, that's in Palestine. Her father was born in Beit Hanina, a suburb of Jerusalem. He moved first to Nicaragua, then to Detroit, where he worked at an assembly line in a Ford Motor Company plant. As the oldest, Tlaib played a role in raising her siblings while her parents worked but sometimes relied on welfare for support. Rashida Tlaib attended elementary school at Harms, Bennett Elementary, and Phoenix Academy, which are in the area nice. So she attended elementary school at Harms, Bennett Elementary, and Phoenix Academy. She graduated from Southwestern High School in Detroit in 1994 and attended Wayne State University, where she received a bachelor's in political science in 1998. She went on to earn a law degree from Thomas Cooley Law School in 2004. In 1998, Rashida married Faiz Tlaib. Together they have a 2-year-old son named Ed, I believe.
Adam's 6 now, and I have Yusuf, who's a year old.
So I knew she had another kid. Tlaib began her political career in 2004 when she started an internship to the state representative Steve Tabakman. Both Tabakman and Tlaib were born into immigrant families. Tabakman is the grandson of Jewish immigrants from Poland who fled the Holocaust, and Tlaib the daughter of Palestinian Muslim immigrants. When Tabakman became majority floor leader in 2007, he recruited Tlaib to be on his staff. In 2008, Tabakman convinced Tlaib to run for his seat, which he would be vacating due to term limits. The urban district is 40% Hispanic, 25% African American, 30% white, and only 2% Arab American. Tlaib faced a crowded primary that included several Latinos, including former state representative Galda Garza. Tlaib emerged victorious, carrying 44% of the vote in the 8-way Democratic primary. The 12th district is overwhelmingly Democratic, and Tlaib won the general election with over 90% of that vote. In 2010, Tlaib faced the primary election challenge against Jim, I cannot pronounce his last name.
You don't need to.
In his first time bid in politics. Tlaib picked up 85% of the vote to Jim's 15%. Tlaib also won the general election, picking up 92% of the vote to second-time Republican challenger Darren Daigle. Tlaib will serve an additional 2 years in the Michigan House of Representatives. She is currently running for re-election to the Michigan House in the newly redrawn 6th District against fellow incumbent Maureen Stapleton. Is this old?
That's true.
It's true. It's now. Tlaib is one of the only 10 Muslims serving in state legislatures across the United States. She is the second Muslim woman to serve in the Michigan State House of Representatives after James Karouk. Tlaib is the second Muslim woman to serve in a state legislature nationwide after Jamila Nasheed of Missouri. She and Justin Amash, a Republican who was also elected in 2008, were the first 2 Palestinian American members of the Michigan legislature.
This is the government club, right? It looks almost like a parliament. This is a really wonderful experience to be able to share my story. This is probably the most, I'm not joking, the most inclusive biography I've ever had anybody read about me. You actually went through every single election, every single thing that I'm going through, including what's currently happening to my district with redistricting. But I know you guys know I'm born and raised in Detroit. I'm the eldest of 14. So I have 7 younger brothers, 6 younger sisters. So I always tell my residents I'm a hard worker and I know how to stretch a dollar. So I fell into politics. My dad was part of the UAW. I don't know how many of your families probably were part of the labor community or UAW and so forth. But my dad, as soon as we turned 18, he always said, go register to vote right away. And And I remember always being told, go vote Democrat, straight ticket, Democrat, straight ticket. Yes, Mama. But I never really truly understood what I was doing other than pleasing my father and making sure I voted every single time. So I got involved in politics after 9/11 mostly. After 9/11, my family was targeted by the FBI. My brother, they kept slashing, probably too young during that time. They used to put this 800 number across the board on the TV saying if you suspect anybody of being a terrorist, you should call the 800 number. And so my brother Rashad, somebody actually called the 800 number and said Rashad hangs out with terrorists and so forth. He was actually in college at the University of Toledo. And so he showed up, and his roommate was in the apartment, and like a bunch of guys in suits showed up at the door and basically said they were watching him for 2 months, thank God. Because I think them kind of spying on him for 2 months is a good idea, because then they can see that he's not hanging out with terrorists or whatever they call him. So I got involved tremendously. I mean, after law school, I think, I started working on this thing called Civil Rights Restoration Act, talking about all the special registration requirements. They were asking a lot of Muslimin to go in and go in and register. They were targeting people, going in, even if you had a green card, they were doing interviews, and then a lot of our folks didn't have attorneys with them and didn't know and were scared. So there was a lot of things happening. Obviously, you know about the no-fly list. My sister's on the no-fly list. I have no idea. I'm a state rep, and I can't get her off the no-fly list. And my sister Layla's only about 19 years old. She's the most kindest, innocent person you ever met. I don't understand why she's on the list. It doesn't make any sense. But I got involved. I got involved in immigration issues, and one of the things that I got involved in was, a lot of you may have heard of the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act is something that was introduced in Washington, D.C. among the U.S. Congress that would allow people without status. So, you might have relatives that come here on a visitor visa or a business visa, and then they don't leave, they expire, the visa expires. Well, their children are usually with them, and then they enroll them in school, so they go throughout the state of Michigan in schools not knowing really what their status is. And as soon as they graduate from high school or they're about to apply for college, they realize, oh my God, I'm out of status. Like, I don't have any immigration status, I'm so-called undocumented, and they're not able to get into college easily. And if they do get into college, they get charged like international rate, student rate, which is like even worse than non-resident rate. So Steve Tabachman introduced the bill. At that time I was working at Access, and I had heard he had introduced what we call the Local and State Tuition Act, Local DREAM Act for the state of Michigan. And I was super excited, and I said, who's introduced it? And they said, oh, a state rep from Southwest Detroit. I said, really? What, Tabachman? I was like, who, Tabachman? I assumed there would be somebody of Latino descent just because it's a predominantly Latino community. And so Steve Tabachman and I became very close and working together on immigrant rights issues. And when he was promoted and elected among his peers to become one of the leaders in the caucus, he was able to expand his staff, and he asked me to come on board. And ever since then, I've been causing trouble in Lansing, really a lot of trouble. As you know, of Palestinian descent, I have, this billionaire that he'll put fences over public parks. He actually closed a city street without permission. And so the joke among my residents in Southwest Detroit is, our state rep is Palestinian, and you can't legally occupy land in her district. So it's kind of somebody got it. So, and it actually is a joke, really. They actually say that. So me being Palestinian, I kind of shy away from. I kind of don't like when people take things when they're not supposed to, and do the kinds of things that they're doing to, especially the families that live near the international border and near the Ambassador Bridge. So 6 months into my job, I became investigating, illegal structure, a bridge to nowhere. If you've ever been on 4th Street, you see the Ambassador Bridge, and right at the edge it just stops. This ramp. It's not there anymore. They actually tore it down about 2 weeks ago, and so one of the city council members called me, Councilman Kenyatta, and he said, "Did you know? Does the Ambassador Bridge Company owners have like a permit for it?" I said, "I don't know. I'm assuming they would. I mean, if you're going to build an international bridge, you have to go through environmental processes. You have to go through all these public hearings. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to do to build a bridge. You just can't build a bridge without any processes, not going through the city and the state and the federal government. So we found out, indeed, no permits, nothing. So the U.S. Coast Guard, who grants the permits for the government, because if you go over the Detroit River, if you go over any kind of body of water, usually you have to go through the U.S. Coast Guard process. And so the U.S. Coast Guard said, okay, we're going to have a public hearing at a local elementary school in my district. And they did. And before they did, my team and I and the residents, we all flyered the whole district. We told people, look, this Ambassador Bridge Company person is trying to build a bridge without doing an environmental study, which you're supposed to do to make sure that it's not going to impact, the asthma rate or impact our public health and so forth. So over 500 people showed up. It was the most, I was on a high. It was wonderful. When the room was packed, it was just amazing to see all my residents, because the people from the Ambassador Bridge Company actually paid young people to $40 or something. It was on that's why I love social media. Some young person admitted he was paid to come and bust all these people from outside of the district to come and oppose us on our position, which is he knew that we were going to come and say, no bridge without an environmental study, no bridge without permits. We need to say yes or no, the public, the government needs to be able to say yes or no to this bridge. So alhamdulillah, we filled it out. Probably 80% of the people were residents versus his 20% of people that he paid to be there, who didn't even know they were there for that reason. They all were carrying these signs that were all like professionally made. Our signs were all like, with a marker and, because, all the wonderful sayings of, just because we're not a billionaire doesn't mean you don't have rights, we have rights. It was beautiful. You could see like, here's the professional corporate interest and here's like the real people. And it was awesome because it halted. They suspended his permit application completely. And then 6 months later, by law, you cannot recall, which is try to remove someone from office. Even if you get elected, you can actually be removed by the people. But you have to be in office at least 6 months before you are permitted to actually file language to collect signatures to remove you from office. So July of 2009, literally 6 months after I started, was sworn in as a state representative, the Ambassador Bridge Company had hired a consultant, got a resident to submit 3 different signature petition language to the Elections Commission to try to remove me from office. It freaked me out. And of course, the Arab Muslim community is like, oh, I can't believe it, it's because she's Muslimah, they're coming after her. I didn't care because that meant the checks were larger amounts of money. And they all supported me, tremendous support from the community. Really upset because I became the first Muslim woman ever elected in the Michigan legislature, and that was something that they were very proud of, and that they really wanted to continue having at least somebody of Muslim faith in the legislature. And so they went to the Elections Commission, and again, alhamdulillah, it's been such a great blessing because when I walked into the room, it was filled with my supporters. I literally cried. There's a YouTube video of me crying. There is, you guys. There is actually one of just me breaking down because it was wonderful. The members of the Elections Commission had not had anybody have this many people come out and support him or her to stop, stop or halt any collection of signatures. And it made me, it reinforced my commitment to my community because, silencing me, for him to try to remove me from office because I opposed him so strongly in moving forward on something that the community did not want. When you think of a bridge, everybody thinks of positive things like jobs and commerce, but in our community, it means asthma. Because 1 of 4 kids in Southwest Detroit have asthma. How many of you here have asthma? See, among the Middle Eastern community, it's not high among the Middle Eastern community actually, but it is very, very high for the 48209 zip code. The 216 zip code that's near the bridge now. But when you say 1 of 4 kids, when I go to different schools, I'll say how many kids here, and it'll be 3rd graders, how many kids here have asthma? 80% of the kids will raise their hand. So I know it's probably even more than 1 of 4. And asthma is it's costly for the family, it's costly for public health, and it's really can be scary if kids don't